So you want to teach online. How exciting! I'm Diana Sage. I am a past chair of the Online Advisory Board, or the OAB, and I'll be working with Nirisha Garimella, who is an instructional designer with the ELC at Spring Creek campus, to talk a little bit about what goes on in creating and teaching an online class. Just three things to go over right now. We're going to talk about which development process you will use. We'll talk about what the OAB is and the difference between the OAB and distance learning. And then finally, the review process you'll go through once you have created your course and you have submitted it for evaluation prior to getting to teach online. So first of all, let's talk about the development process you'll go through in creating your class. First of all, you're identifying the format you will use when you're teaching. A hybrid class is a class that meets in person on a regular basis, but also with some online activity. So for example, you might, if it's a Tuesday, Thursday class, maybe it meets Tuesdays in person, but then Thursdays online. So it's a regularly scheduled class that does meet in person on a regular schedule, but it also meets some online. People often get confused between the difference between a hybrid class and a blended class. So that's the difference. A blended class meets mostly online, but there's some required in-person activities, such as proctored exams, labs, field trips, etc. So there's some in-person activity. And then, of course, there are fully online classes where the students do everything online. They are not required to take tests in person. They are not required to meet in person at all. So those are the three formats that are available. Once you've figured out which format you'll be using, you need to find out, is there an existing approved course already? Because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. So ask your associate dean or an instructional designer. Does a class already exist? If one does, so if the answer to that question is yes, then you will go through distance learning in setting up your class and getting ready to teach it. If no class exists, that's when you go through the online advisory board. So you'll have to create your class from scratch and go through the online advisory board when you get it approved. Now, you must complete the approval process for each individual course you teach. Not every section, thank goodness, but each individual course. So for example, I teach Speech 1311. I would develop a course online for Speech 1311, but if I teach 5 sections of it, I can use that same course that I created for all 5 sections of my 1311 class. Next, let's talk about distance learning and the OAB. We have a whole list of considerations here to decide whether you're going to go through the OAB or distance learning for your process. First of all, who assigns the course? That's always going to be the associate dean. We don't actually recommend trying to create an online course before you have been assigned. And you can ask your associate dean to assign you one, but wait until it's actually been scheduled, because if you create one and then it turns out that we don't have a slot for it, then you've done all that work for no reason. So make sure that you have been assigned to teach online first. Check it out with the associate dean. Next question is, who develops the course? If it's a course that is meant to be just used by you, the faculty member, then you, the faculty member, design it. And other people can then later on use your course as a model, but it was originally designed just for you to use. And then somebody else can sort of copy it and use it as a model later on, but you alone designed it. If you are doing that through the OAB, you can also create one using a faculty team that we can then use as a template for any professor who wants to teach that course, and they would just tweak the template a little bit to fit what they're doing. You go through the distance learning department if it's an approved course that already exists. Next question, where is the course built? Now, again, if you're going through the OAB, you'll have a sandbox, so you can create a model in your sandbox in our learning management system, which currently is Canvas. If it's a template, the OAB will assign you a designated shell, and you'll create the course in that designated course shell, and that way any faculty member who wants to use it has access to that course shell. It's not existing only in your own personal sandbox. Who uses the course? That's going to be, again, you, the faculty member, if it's a model, or if somebody wants to copy your course directly and use that model for their own, then that's you, the faculty member, or whichever individual faculty member wants to use your model, and they will get it from you because it exists only in your sandbox. If it's a template, then again, any faculty member in the department who is assigned to teach online and wants to teach that course would then be using your template, and luckily it's built in a course shell that has been designated so everybody has access. Now, who reviews the course? If it's a course that did not exist before, as we mentioned earlier, it's going to go through the OAB, which is an interdisciplinary faculty committee. So it will be evaluated by 2 reviewers, and then also the entire online advisory board will take a look at it and vote on whether it meets all the basic requirements. Now, there's a framework that we look at in the OAB, so it's just kind of a basic framework, but within that framework, you put the leaves on the tree. You will be fleshing it out the way you want your course to look. So you still have academic freedom. You can put whatever content you want in there. The OAB is just looking to make sure that it has checked the framework items on the checklist. Now here's the thing, deadline for submission. People often are really surprised at how early you have to submit your course. In fact, when I first wanted to teach online, I thought, all right, I'll design it over the summer and I'll teach it in the fall. No. You have to suggest that you want to teach the course or get permission or get it on the schedule a year ahead of time. So you get the process started about a year ahead of time, because the deadline for submitting your fully built course to the OAB is 4 months prior to the start of the semester when the course will be taught. So if you suggest, I would like to teach online in the fall, and you're suggesting it in May, too late. They'll tell you you can teach in the fall next year, because you have to have that submitted fully built 4 months ahead of time, and that gives the OAB time to review your course, and if there's any tweaking that needs to be done, there's time for that to happen before the course is officially taught. So that's probably the key thing that you'll need to be aware of, is the timeline is a lot longer than people realize. Standards for evaluation. There is a checklist. It is a checklist that is used for both the OAB and the distance learning process.
Hi, I'm Nirisha Garimella. As Diana mentioned, I am the instructional designer here at the Spring Creek campus. So Diana has elaborated on the online advisory board, the OAB review process, and I'm going to touch base on the DL, the distance learning review process. One thing that's common for any course that is being taught online, it is assigned by your associate dean. They are the ones who assign you the course, so that's whom you need to have that conversation with. In terms of who develops the course, distance learning, again, going back to what Diana had mentioned, you do a distance learning review if the course, an approved course, online course already exists. So that's when you would, so it's already been developed by usually a colleague or a team of colleagues, and they make a template, so it's already in existence. So it's already been developed by somebody else, and you, as the person who's getting ready to teach, gets to customize it to meet your teaching and learning needs. You can build it either in your sandbox course in Canvas, or you can also build it in your upcoming semester course shell. It's up to you as to where you want to build it. In terms of who would use it, of course, that would be you. You're the adopting faculty. So again, this is the course already exists, an approved course already exists. So you, as the adopting faculty, if it's a model, if there only exists a model, you would get in touch with your colleague and ask them for permission, because they are the only ones who have that course. So you would get their permission and import their course into your own Canvas course and customize it. If there's a template, you can reach out to one of instructional designers in the ELC, and we'll give you access to the template, again, so that you can modify. In terms of review, this is one of the big things that differs between a course that is newly built and goes through the OAB process and a course that already exists, an approved course that already exists. The only person who has to review that course is an instructional designer. Again, one of our ELC, me or my colleagues will review that course. Usually the deadline for the DL review is about a month prior to the start of the semester. For example, if you're teaching a fall course, usually about the beginning of August is when the DL reviews would be due. So you would want to start working a few months ahead of time, because you're going to get either a model or a template that was built by somebody else that you may not have seen what they have. So it gives you enough time to look at the course and customize it to meet your needs. One thing that is, again, common between OAB and DL is the standards of evaluation are identical. So you would use the same checklist that was used for the full review for the course while it was getting approved for the DL review. So the standards are identical. So that's the big difference between the OAB, the Online Advisory Board review process, and the DL, the Distance Learning review process. Now let's actually go through and look at the review process itself. You want to make sure you're using the right checklist. The ELC website has the different checklists, and the ELC website is accessible to you through your Cougar Web under your faculty tab. So make sure you're using the right checklist. There's a separate one for hybrid. For a blended or a fully online course, there's the same checklist, and then for a template, if you're developing a template that needs to go to the OAB, there's a separate checklist for us, because in a template you would just be putting placeholders. So make sure you're using the right checklist. Now the checklist has a list of different standards that need to be met in order to for your course to be approved, but faculty always have complete academic freedom with regards to content assignments. Now, one more thing is the course has to be completely developed before it can be submitted either for the OAB or the DL review. So here are a few things to remember. Know your deadlines. With the online advisory board, remember Diana mentioned to you saying you can't just wake up one day and say, I'm ready to teach online. For a course to be approved, it takes a few months, because it has to go to the online advisory board. They have a timetable that they follow, and there are deadlines again. Usually the deadlines for the OAB are about 4 months before the start of the semester that you're going to teach a course. So again, if you're teaching a course in fall, the deadlines for that are way back in about April or so. So that, which means that in order for you to develop a good online course, it's going to take you a few months. So you're probably going to start way back in spring semester. So you need to give yourself enough time, between 6 months to about a year, before you actually get to teach that course online. And if it's a DL review, so if there's already a course that exists that has been approved by the OAB, the deadlines are about a month before you are supposed to teach. So again, you give yourself enough time to customize the course. So that's also a few months before you're going to teach. So know the deadlines. Again, that goes to start early. It's never too early to start getting ready for an online course. So if you have an inkling as to you want to develop a course, you want to teach online, talk to your associate dean, find out what the process is, and so that you start getting prepared to teach online. Again, ask questions. There are lots of resources available. Your associate dean is a good person to talk to. Talk to your colleagues. You have a lot of colleagues who have taught online. They don't have to be from your department. They could be anybody from any discipline. Talk to them, get feedback from them, get ideas from them. Talk to the ELC staff, and we'll be happy to help you and answer any questions. Now, again, the last thing I want to remind you is your entire course has to be ready before it can be submitted, even either for your OAB or a DL review. This includes all your content, your assignments, that is your instructions, everything, your exams, if you're having midterm and finals, all those exams, all the questions, your discussion prompts, everything needs to be developed and ready before your courses will be reviewed. And so again, what you learned in this video was which of the developmental process you would need to use, knowing the kinds of course, the kind of course, the modality of the course you're going to be teaching, hybrid, blended, online. Learned about the OAB and the DL review. Again, OAB is the online advisory board, DL is the distance learning review, and the distance learning and the OAB process itself. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to any of your colleagues, your associate dean, or any staff member in the ELC.